It is one of the strangest paradoxes of our age. We live in a world where technology expands without limits, yet human patience seems to shrink by the day. We carry in our pockets the combined knowledge of all recorded history, yet struggle to make it through a 2-minute video without distraction. We dream of colonizing other planets, but cannot agree on how to care for the one we already inhabit. This is the paradox of modern life. Our reach feels infinite, but our grasp feels fragile. Our tools grow vast. Our wisdom stays finite. We long for forever, but we stumble on the now. And this, in a curious way, is the paradox of the universe itself. For the cosmos confronts us with the greatest question of all: is infinity real? Could infinity itself actually have an end? When you stand beneath the night sky, infinity feels natural. Stars scatter endlessly. The Milky Way arcs overhead like a river of light without boundaries. To the eye, the universe is boundless, stretching forever. To the imagination, infinity is intoxicating. It promises no edges, no limits, no endings. But science tells us otherwise. The universe may not be infinite. It may only appear so. Like a great stage whose set vanishes into darkness, giving the illusion of endless space, the cosmos may have boundaries, horizons, and a future that ends not with eternity, but with silence. And here is where our story begins. For to ask whether infinity has an end is not only a scientific question, it is also a philosophical one. It is a mirror for humanity. Because if the universe itself can end, then what does that say about us, about meaning, about responsibility in a finite world? Infinity is seductive. The ancient Greeks wrestled with it. Zeno of Elea created paradoxes to challenge it. If you can divide space infinitely, how does motion ever occur? If you can split time infinitely, how does a single moment ever arrive? These were not just riddles. They were humanity's first attempts to make sense of the boundless. For millennia, the cosmos seemed infinite. The stars, unchanging, gave no hint of limits. Theologians spoke of eternity, philosophers of the boundless, poets of the endless. Infinity became not just a concept, but a comfort. If the heavens stretch forever, perhaps so does meaning. But the 20th century shattered that illusion. With the discovery of the expanding universe, suddenly infinity was not assumed. If the universe is expanding, then it once was smaller. If it was smaller, it had a beginning. The Big Bang was not just the birth of matter and energy, but the death of infinity past. Time itself had a starting point. Infinity, it seemed, had already been broken. This is unsettling. We prefer eternities. We want forever. We want the stars to be endless, the cosmos to be boundless. But the universe reminds us, even infinities may be illusions. Even forever may end. Cosmologists debate the fate of the universe. Will it expand forever? Stars fading into cold embers? Galaxies drifting beyond sight? Until nothing remains but black holes evaporating into silence. That is the heat-death infinity stretched so far, it becomes indistinguishable from nothing. Or will dark energy grow stronger, accelerating the expansion until galaxies, stars, planets, atoms themselves are torn apart? That is the big rip, a violent ending to what once seemed infinite. Or might gravity one day overcome expansion, pulling the cosmos back into a collapse, a big crunch, where time itself folds inward? In such a case, infinity may be cyclical, not endless, reborn again and again. And then there is the wildest idea, that our universe is not infinite at all, but part of a larger multiverse. What feels like endlessness may just be a bubble, one of many, floating in a sea of creation. Infinity might exist, but not here. So, could infinity have an end? Physics suggests yes. And in that answer lies a mirror, because our own lives too are finite. Our civilizations too are finite. We live as if resources are infinite, as if time is boundless, as if tomorrow will always come. But the lesson of the universe is that even infinities break, even eternities fail, even the stars themselves die. And yet here is the paradox, meaning emerges not in spite of finitude, but because of it. The fact that the universe has an age makes it precious. The fact that stars die makes their light significant. The fact that we are finite gives weight to our choices. If infinity had no end, then nothing would matter. If eternity stretched forever, urgency would vanish. But because we are finite, we are meaningful. Just as the universe itself is meaningful precisely because it changes, evolves, and someday will conclude. Long before telescopes, long before equations, humanity wrestled with infinity in the realm of thought. The Greeks debated whether it even existed. Aristotle argued that infinity was only potential. You could always keep counting, but you would never actually arrive at infinity itself. To him, infinity was like the horizon. Always there, always unreachable. Others, like Zeno, turned infinity into puzzles. His paradox of Achilles and the tortoise remains famous. If Achilles gives the tortoise a head start, Zeno argued, he can never overtake it. Why? Because each time Achilles reaches where the tortoise was, the tortoise has moved a little further. They divide the race into infinitely many steps, and Achilles is forever chasing. The paradox teased a problem. How do you traverse infinity? Centuries later, with the rise of calculus, thinkers like Newton and Leibniz turned infinity into a tool. By slicing time and space into infinitely small intervals, they could calculate motion, acceleration, gravity. Infinity went from puzzle to power, from paradox to engine of physics. Without infinity, there is no modern science. But it was in the 19th century that infinity was truly tamed, or perhaps unleashed. The German mathematician Georg Cantor dared to ask, are all infinities equal? His answer, no. Some infinities are bigger than others. Consider this. The set of natural numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 is infinite, but so is the set of even numbers. And yet Cantor showed these infinities are the same size. For every natural number, there's an even partner. 1 with 2, 2 with 4, 3 with 6. They match perfectly 1 to 1. Infinity, it seemed, was manageable. But then Cantor went further. What about the set of real numbers? All the decimals between 0 and 1. This infinity is larger. Why? Because no matter how you try to list them, there will always be numbers left out, decimals you can't capture. This was Cantor's diagonal argument, proof that there are bigger infinities. Infinity comes in sizes. Infinity itself has hierarchy. This was radical, even heretical. Some contemporaries accused Cantor of blasphemy, of meddling with the divine. Others celebrated him as a genius. Today, his work is the foundation of modern mathematics, showing us that infinity is not singular, but layered, structured, nuanced. And then came the thought experiments. Hilbert's hotel, imagined by the mathematician David Hilbert, is a hotel with infinitely many rooms. Even when full, it can always accommodate more guests. Just move each person to the next room, freeing room 1 for the newcomer. Need to fit infinitely more? Shift everyone to every even-numbered room, leaving the odds empty. Infinity, it seems, is never full. Yet Hilbert's hotel also exposes the strangeness of infinity. If all odd-numbered guests check out, half the rooms are empty, but the hotel still holds infinitely many. Subtract infinity. Infinity remains. Add infinity, infinity remains. Infinity does not play by the rules of the finite. Now, why does this matter for the universe? Because mathematics is the language of nature. If infinity is paradoxical, layered, structured, perhaps the cosmos is too. When cosmologists debate whether the universe is infinite in space, or infinite in time, or infinite in parallel worlds, they are not just speculating, they're extending Cantor's question to the stars. Could there be larger infinities of universes beyond our own? Could our infinity be only one floor of Hilbert's cosmic hotel? And if so, could even those infinities have an end? The mathematics of infinity does not settle the cosmos, but it prepares our minds to wrestle with it. It reminds us that what feels infinite may not be, and what feels impossible may exist. Infinity is not comfortable, it is not simple, but it is essential. And isn't that the story of humanity too? We crave the infinite in power, in growth, in progress, but we live within limits of resources, of time, of planet. We act as though our hotel has infinite rooms, when in truth, Earth has only a few. The paradox of infinity is also the paradox of civilization. How to live as if forever, while knowing our stay is finite. Mathematics gave us tools to think about infinity. But when telescopes extended our vision, the question grew sharper. Is the universe itself infinite? The Big Bang taught us that the universe had a beginning not in space, but in time. 13.8 billion years ago, everything we know was compressed into an unimaginably hot, dense state. Then it expanded, cooled, and gave rise to galaxies, stars, planets, and us. But here's the question. Did the universe expand into something finite, like a balloon growing larger? Or is it infinite without boundary, expanding everywhere at once? Cosmologists use geometry to answer. The shape of space can be closed, like a sphere, finite but unbounded travel far enough, and you return to where you began. Or it can be open, like a saddle, infinite and ever expanding. Or it can be flat, stretching endlessly without curvature. The latest measurements from satellites like WAMP and Planck suggest the universe is astonishingly flat, within a fraction of a percent. And a flat universe implies infinity, space without end. Galaxies scattered forever. No edge, no boundary. Infinity may be real after all, but infinity hides subtlety. Because even if space is infinite, we cannot see it all. The universe has a cosmic horizon. The maximum distance light has had time to travel since the Big Bang. Beyond that horizon, galaxies may exist, but their light has not yet reached us. They are real, but forever invisible. Infinity may exist, but our view of it is finite. Think of standing on a beach. The ocean seems infinite, stretching to the horizon. But what you see is not the whole ocean, only the part your eyes can reach. The horizon is not the end, it is your limit. The universe is the same. Our horizon is not the edge of reality, only the edge of visibility. Infinity may lie beyond, unseen. And then inflation enters the story. In the first instant after the Big Bang, the universe may have expanded faster than light, smoothing space and seeding galaxies. If inflation is correct, our observable universe is just one patch of a much larger whole. Beyond it, other regions may exist, unreachable, perhaps infinite in number. This is the idea of the multiverse, that our universe is not the universe, but one bubble in a cosmic foam. Infinity, it seems, may be layered again. Infinite space, infinite universes, infinite possibilities, Cantor's hierarchy of infinities writ large across the cosmos. But could even this infinity have an end? Physics suggests yes, for even an infinite universe can still end in time. An infinite beach still recedes with the tide. An infinite sky still darkens at night. Infinity in space does not guarantee eternity in time. Dark energy may still stretch the cosmos into silence. Entropy may still drain its structure away. Infinity may exist in one dimension, but not another. And here is the mirror. Infinity in human ambition is always bounded by time. We imagine endless growth, endless progress, endless consumption. But our world has limits. Our planet is finite. Our resources are finite. Even our lifespans are finite. We may dream in infinity, but we live in boundaries. Yet within those boundaries, meaning flourishes. If we lived forever, urgency would vanish. If the earth offered infinite resources, responsibility would dissolve. Infinity, in its comfort, can rob us of significance. Finitude, in its brevity, gives us purpose. The universe may or may not be infinite, but humanity is not. And that truth should sharpen our choices. For just as the cosmos reminds us that horizons exist, so does life remind us that opportunities expire. If the universe had a beginning, must it also have an end? And if infinity itself can end, what forms might that ending take? Physicists debate several possibilities, each stranger than the last. The first is the heat death of the universe, also called the Big Freeze. As the cosmos expands, galaxies drift farther apart. Stars exhaust their fuel and fade into white dwarfs, neutron stars, black holes. Over trillions of years, even those remnants cool, leaving only a thin soup of particles spread thinner and thinner. Energy becomes evenly distributed. Entropy reaches its maximum. Nothing more can happen. The universe does not explode. It does not collapse. It simply fades silence, stretched forever. Infinity, drained into emptiness. Another possibility is more dramatic, the Big Rip. If dark energy, the mysterious force accelerating the expansion of the cosmos, grows stronger over time, the expansion will not only separate galaxies, but tear them apart. First galaxies dissolve, then solar systems, then planets. Atoms themselves are ripped asunder. The very fabric of space unravels. Infinity ends, not in silence, but in shattering. Or perhaps gravity will have the final word. If the density of matter and energy is high enough, expansion may someday reverse. Galaxies will stop receding and begin collapsing inward. Stars will collide, black holes will merge, the cosmos will grow hotter and denser until it collapses into a singularity, the Big Crunch. Infinity ends by folding back on itself. But there is a fourth vision, that the end is also a beginning. If a Big Crunch occurs, perhaps it triggers another Big Bang. The universe may not be infinite in time, but cyclical, reborn again and again. Infinity, not in endless extension, but in repetition. A cosmic heartbeat, expansion, collapse, renewal. And then there is speculation still wilder. Perhaps our universe will bud off new universes, like branches from a tree. Each black hole could seed a new cosmos on the other side. In that picture, our universe is not infinite in itself, but part of an infinite lineage. Infinity survives, not within, but beyond. Each scenario is profoundly unsettling. Each undermines our intuition of permanence. We crave a forever universe, yet physics offers us only endings, slow, sudden, cyclical, or branching. But these endings teach us something vital. Meaning does not depend on eternity. The stars shine not because they are infinite, but because they are temporary. Life matters not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't. Finitude is not a flaw. It is the source of significance. Imagine if the universe were eternal, unchanging, infinite in every direction. Stars would have always shone and always will. Life would have always existed and always will. There would be no novelty, no urgency, no progression. In an eternal, static infinity, nothing would matter. But in a finite, evolving cosmos, everything matters. Each star is unique, each life irreplaceable, each choice significant. And here lies the lesson for humanity. Our civilizations, too, imagine themselves infinite. Empires believe they would last forever. Nations think their borders permanent. Cultures imagine their values eternal. Yet history shows otherwise. Civilizations rise, flourish, collapse. Nothing human is infinite. And that is precisely why what we build matters. Just as the universe creates beauty, not despite endings, but because of them, we too must find meaning in our brevity. Our duty is not to chase infinity, but to enrich the finite, not to seek permanence, but to scatter legacy. Not to live forever, but to live significantly. Long before we measured cosmic expansion, long before we traced starlight with telescopes, human beings stared into the night and imagined infinity. The sky seemed endless, and with it came both awe and fear. For the ancient Egyptians, the heavens were eternal, the gods were written into the stars, and the cycles of sunrise and sunset mirrored eternal recurrence. Death was not final, it was transition. The pyramids themselves were monuments to permanence, an attempt to build eternity in stone. The Hindus imagined the cosmos as infinite cycles of creation and destruction, woven through the dance of Shiva, the cosmic destroyer and creator. Time was not linear, but circular, stretching into vast kalpa cycles longer than the lifespan of stars. Infinity was not a line, but a wheel. The Greeks wrestled more analytically. To Plato, the heavens were perfect and unchanging. reflecting the eternal forms. To Aristotle, infinity was potential, not actual and abstraction, not a reality. Zeno's paradoxes, like Achilles and the tortoise, teased out the absurdities of infinite division. Infinity was not just mystery, it was trouble. For the Abrahamic traditions, infinity was divine. Eternity belonged only to God, whose existence stretched beyond time and space. Humanity was finite, but faith promised an infinite afterlife, a salvation that transcended death. Infinity was not in the cosmos, but in the soul. Artists, too, reached for infinity. Medieval cathedrals, with their endless arches and soaring ceilings, sought to mimic the boundless. Islamic mosaics repeated geometric patterns into apparent infinity, reflections of divine perfection. Renaissance painters experimented with perspective, opening finite canvases into infinite landscapes. Infinity became not only theology but art. Explorers of the age of discovery looked out at the oceans and imagined endless horizons, infinite lands beyond the maps. The frontier became infinity embodied. Every horizon promised another and another. Infinity was not only in the stars, but in the seas. Even in modernity, infinity captivates. Poets speak of eternal love, eternal memory, eternal truth. Writers like Jorge Luis Borges filled their works with labyrinths and libraries of infinity, where books and choices never end. Infinity remains not just a mathematical abstraction, but a cultural obsession. And yet, infinity has always been double-edged. It comforts promising eternity, permanence, boundlessness, but it also terrifies overwhelming the finite mind, dwarfing our smallness, denying our significance. Infinity is both heaven and abyss, promise and nightmare. Then came science, stripping away illusions. Galileo's telescope revealed that stars were not eternal fires, but distant suns. Newton's physics showed a universe of order, but not of infinity. Space might be infinite, but motion was bound by laws. Einstein bent space and time themselves, reminding us that infinity may be shaped, not assumed. And then, the 20th century delivered the shattering truth. The universe had a beginning. The Big Bang was not just a moment of creation, but a limit. Time itself was finite in the past. The illusion of infinite eternity was gone. The cosmos had an age. Infinity had already been broken. Yet even in that finitude, the longing remains. We ask, could infinity stretch forward, even if not backward? Could the universe expand forever? Could parallel worlds multiply without end? Could infinity exist, even if only in potential? The paradox persists. Infinity comforts us, yet science reminds us of endings. Infinity tempts us, yet reality teaches us brevity. And here again is the human mirror. We long for eternity, but we live in time. We dream of permanence, but we act in fragility. We build pyramids and cathedrals, but even they erode. We carve names in stone, but even stone crumbles. We speak of forever, yet forever escapes us. The lesson of infinity, both mathematical and cosmic, is not that we must have it, but that we must live meaningfully without it. Infinity is not our inheritance. Finitude is. And finitude, far from diminishing us, sharpens us. It makes our choices matter, our lives urgent, our responsibilities real. For most of human history, infinity was something imagined in myth, in theology, in philosophy, in art. But in the 20th century, humanity did something astonishing. We reached for infinity not in our minds, but with our machine. When Yuri Gagarin orbited Earth in 1961, he became the first human to see our planet as a whole. In that moment, infinity shifted. No longer was it only in the stars above. It was also in the perspective below. Gagarin saw the fragility of Earth against the blackness, the curvature of the horizon against the infinite night. Infinity was no longer abstract, it was visceral. When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon in 1969, he called it a giant leap for mankind. But perhaps its greater leap was philosophical. For the first time, humanity looked back at Earth from another world. And what did we see? Not infinity, not eternity, but finitude. A blue marble, fragile, finite, suspended in the infinite dark. And then came Voyager. In 1990, as it drifted toward the edge of the solar system, Voyager 1 turned its camera back and captured the pale blue dot Earth, a pixel of light in a sunbeam, lost in the vastness. Carl Sagan reflected, "All of human history, every king and peasant, every war and revolution, every saint and sinner, lived on that mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. Infinity humbled us not by our grandeur, but by our smallness." The space age revealed the paradox of infinity more starkly than ever. We reached toward the infinite, and in doing so, we discovered our finitude. We dreamed of forever and discovered our fragility. And yet, this was not despair. It was awakening. For to see Earth as finite is to recognize its value. To know that we are temporary is to understand our urgency. Infinity does not give meaning. Finitude does. This is why infinity matters, not because we can touch it, but because we cannot. Not because it comforts us, but because it challenges us. The universe may be infinite in space, but it is finite in time. Our species may dream infinite dreams, but it has finite chances. Infinity taunts us, but finitude empowers us. Because if infinity has no end, then nothing matters. But if finitude is real, then everything matters. Every choice, every action, every generation leaves an imprint. The cosmos teaches us that infinity can end, that even stars die, that even universes fade. And in that truth lies not despair, but responsibility. Because in a finite world, what we scatter matters most. This is the lesson of the space race. It was born from rivalry, from the threat of annihilation. Yet out of that crisis came enrichment. The perspective of Earth as one, the technology that now links our world, the inspiration that still drives science today, like a star collapsing before it explodes, humanity in that moment scattered something greater than destruction. It scattered perspective. It scattered hope. Infinity may have an end, but meaning does not require forever. Meaning requires now. The Apollo missions were, in many ways, humanity's rehearsal for infinity. We reached a nearby world, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. Yet what we found was not the infinite, but the finite barren landscapes, silent craters, a sky without air or sound. The moon was a reminder that Earth is unique, that our fragile biosphere is rare. We did not find infinity, we found perspective. Then came Voyager. Launched in 1977, it carried instruments to explore Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the grand tour of the solar system. It captured storms larger than Earth, rings like cosmic fingerprints, moons with volcanoes and oceans beneath ice, and then it kept going. Today, Voyager is in interstellar space, a machine no bigger than a small car, carrying with it the golden record music, greetings, the sounds of Earth, encoded for an infinite journey into the unknown. Voyager is our first true emissary to infinity, our bottled message cast into a cosmic sea. The Hubble Space Telescope, launched in 1990, gave us images that reshaped our imagination. The Hubble Deep Field, a patch of sky no bigger than a grain of sand, held at arm's length, revealed thousands of galaxies, each with billions of stars. Infinity stared back at us, not as an abstraction, but as a photograph. Infinity was not empty. Infinity was crowded with possibility. And then, the International Space Station, not a leap to another world, but a platform above our own. A reminder that even in rivalry, cooperation is possible. That nations divided on Earth could be united in orbit. That infinity is not only about exploration, but about collaboration. Each of these steps, Apollo, Voyager, Hubble, ISS, revealed the same paradox. We reached outward for infinity, and we discovered our finitude. We sought forever and found fragility. We tried to escape our boundaries, and we learned to cherish them. So could infinity actually have an end? Physics suggests yes. The universe itself may fade or shatter or recycle. Infinity may be an illusion, but the greater truth is this: infinity is not what gives us meaning. Finitude does. The stars shine because they die. Civilizations matter because they end. lives are precious because they are brief. Infinity overwhelms, finitude empowers, and that is where the responsibility lies. To live as if infinite is to squander. To live as if finite is to act. The space race was a glimpse of what we can do when urgency meets vision, when rivalry births perspective, when crisis scatters enrichment instead of ashes. Our task now is to live not as if we have infinite time, but as if our time matters. Not as if Earth is infinite, but as if it is fragile. Not as if resources are endless, but as if they are precious. Infinity may end, but meaning begins with us. The James Webb Space Telescope, unfurled in 2021, is perhaps the most literal human attempt to touch infinity. Floating 1 million miles from Earth, it peers deeper into time than any telescope before it. Its mirrors catch photons that have traveled for over 13 billion years, nearly to the dawn of creation. With it, we see galaxies forming when the universe was young, stars kindling for the first time. We look outward, and what we see is our beginning. Infinity, for us, is not only ahead, but behind, written in the light of ancient stars. And then, there is Mars, the red frontier. Rovers crawl across its dust, drones hum through its thin air, orbiters map its surface in exquisite detail. The dream of setting human feet there is no longer fantasy but blueprint. And why Mars? Because it is the next horizon, the next attempt to step beyond finitude, to seed our species beyond a single world. Infinity is not reached all at once. It is pursued one planet at a time. But even that is not the end of our dreaming. Projects like Breakthrough Starshot imagine sending tiny probes to Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system, propelled by lasers at a fraction of light speed. Travel time, 2 decades. For the first time, interstellar exploration is not only a dream, but a plan. The scale of infinity begins to bend into reach. And yet, with each of these advances, the lesson is the same. The Webb telescope shows us our origins. Mars shows us our fragility, how rare Earth is. Interstellar projects show us our limits, how vast the gulfs truly are. Every step toward infinity reminds us of our finitude. Every push outward forces us to look inward. And so we return to the question, could infinity actually have an end? Physics tells us yes. Mathematics shows us infinity is strange, layered, paradoxical. Culture reveals our longing for forever, even as history teaches us nothing human is eternal. But perhaps the deeper truth is this: infinity is not what matters. Finitude is. A universe without end would be sterile. A civilization without boundaries would be careless. A life without death would be meaningless. It is the end that gives significance to the journey, the limit that gives urgency to the act, the horizon that gives value to the step. The universe itself is a teacher. It does not promise infinity. It promises impermanence. And in impermanence, it promises meaning. If the history of humanity shows anything, it is that limits inspire invention. Each time we reach a boundary of land, of knowledge, of technology, we dream beyond it. And so, when we face the boundary of Earth itself, we imagine futures that stretch into infinity. One vision is the generation ship, a colossal vessel traveling between stars, so vast that entire societies could live, age, and die aboard it. No single human would reach the destination. Instead, countless generations would carry the journey forward. A moving civilization adrift in infinity. The ship itself would be a finite world within an infinite sea, teaching its people that survival depends on cooperation, restraint, and shared purpose. Sound familiar? It would be Earth in miniature. Another vision is the Dyson sphere, a megastructure built around a star to capture nearly all its energy. First imagined by physicist Freeman Dyson, it represents a civilization that has grown beyond planetary limits, harnessing stellar power to sustain billions, perhaps trillions. To build such a structure is to attempt mastery over infinity itself, not in space, but in energy. And then there is the Kardashev scale, named after the Russian astronomer Nikolai Kardashev, who categorize civilizations by their energy use. A Type 1 civilization harnesses the energy of its planet. Type 2, the energy of its star. Type 3, the energy of its galaxy. Humanity is not yet even Type 1. We still burn the remnants of dead plants while sunlight spills freely across our world. Infinity remains far away. Yet these dreams, though extravagant, reveal something profound. Even in imagining infinity, we reveal our finitude. Generation ships remind us that survival requires responsibility. Dyson spheres remind us that waste is impossible in a closed system. Kardashev's scale reminds us how young we are, how far we have to go. Infinity is not a gift. It is a challenge, not a comfort, a responsibility. And so when we ask, could infinity actually have an end? The answer is not only scientific, but human. The universe may expand forever, or collapse, or shatter. Infinity may be real, or it may be illusion. But what matters is not whether infinity ends. What matters is what we do in the meantime. For we too are finite. Our civilizations rise and fall. Our lives begin and end. Our planet has an expiration date, and yet within that brevity, we find meaning. Stars die, and their ashes become planets. Civilizations collapse, and their remnants seed new cultures. Lives end, and their legacies enrich those who follow. Infinity humbles us. Finitude empowers us. The space race showed us this truth. We reached for the infinite sky, and what we discovered was the fragility of Earth. We chased forever and found responsibility. We sought infinity and found finitude. And in that finitude, we found meaning. If infinity tempts us, then so does the idea of transcending ourselves. For our bodies are fragile, our lifespan short, our biology bound to Earth, yet our minds, our curiosity reach farther. And so we imagine futures in which humanity survives not as flesh, but as thought. Consider artificial intelligence not as tool, but as air. Could our descendants be not biological, but digital? Could consciousness be uploaded into machines, carried across eons, free from hunger, disease, and death? Such beings could cross the gulfs of interstellar space, waiting out millennia with patience no human could endure. To them, infinity might feel closer. Or consider the possibility of biological transformation, genetic engineering, cybernetic augmentation, merging biology with technology. Perhaps we will not abandon the body, but remake it. Bodies suited for Mars, minds linked across space, eyes that see in spectra beyond human imagination. Infinity approached not by leaving ourselves behind, but by evolving what we are. And then there is the most radical speculation. Consciousness woven into the cosmos itself. If physics allows it, future beings may harness black holes, manipulate space-time, perhaps even shift universes. To such a species, infinity would not be a horizon, but a canvas. These are visions, not guarantees. Science fiction today may be science fact tomorrow. But whether we imagine AI civilizations drifting between galaxies, or humans evolved into something unrecognizable, or minds embedded in starlight, the longing is the same: to defy finitude, to live not as brief sparks, but as enduring flames, to escape the end. And yet, even here, the lesson returns. For even an AI civilization must wrestle with entropy. Even post-human life must face the death of stars, the cooling of the cosmos, the boundaries of physics. Infinity remains elusive. Finitude remains real. So perhaps the point is not to escape finitude, but to embrace it, not to dream of forever, but to act in the now, not to seek eternity, but to scatter meaning. Because even if infinity ends, legacy does not. Even if universes fade, choices echo. Even if we are temporary, we can leave enrichment that outlives us. So here we are. We have journeyed from the mathematics of infinity to the fate of the cosmos, from Cantor's infinities to Hilbert's hotel, from dying stars to generation ships, from ancient myths to modern telescopes. And the question remains, could infinity actually have an end? Science suggests yes. Philosophy accepts yes. But the deeper question is this: if infinity ends, what then? The answer, my friends, is that what matters most was never infinity. It was finitude. It was us. Every civilization has, in its own way, dreamed of infinity. Not always of cosmic infinity, but of human infinity, the belief that its empire, its culture, its power would last forever. The Egyptians carved eternity into stone. Their pyramids were not only tombs, but declarations. This civilization will endure. And for millennia, they seem to. Until the Nile cycles shifted, until rivals rose, until eternity eroded. Their monuments remain, but the civilization that built them is gone. Infinity ended. The Romans proclaimed themselves the eternal empire, Roma Aeterna. They paved roads across continents, built aqueducts, raised amphitheaters that still stand today. To a Roman citizen in the height of the empire, Rome must have seemed infinite, a power that would never fade. Yet it did. Legions collapsed, cities burned, borders shrank. Infinity ended. The Chinese dynasties, one after another, declared the mandate of heaven eternal. Each believed its rule divinely sanctioned, boundless in time. Yet history reminds us. Dynasties rise, dynasties fall. Infinity ended but was reborn in cycles, each collapse seeding the next renewal. Even in the modern age, nations dream of permanence. They build skyscrapers to pierce the sky, nuclear arsenals to project eternal power, flags to plant on distant worlds. And yet, as history has shown, no nation lasts forever. No empire escapes collapse. No culture avoids transformation. Infinity ends, always. And here, the cosmic mirror returns. Stars believe themselves stable until fusion falters. Galaxies drift until collisions rewrite them. Even the universe itself, for all its grandeur, carries the possibility of an ending. Human infinities are no different. But collapse is not always catastrophe. Just as a star's death enriches the galaxy with new elements, so too do civilizations leave legacies. Rome scattered law, language, architecture. Egypt scattered myth, art, astronomy. The Mayans scattered mathematics, calendars, cosmology. Each infinity ended, but what they scattered endured. This is the lesson. Infinity is never guaranteed. Finitude is the rule. But what finitude leaves behind that is the choice. Stars scatter elements. Civilizations scatter ideas. Individuals scatter meaning. Infinity may end, but legacy can endure. And that, my friends, brings us to the present moment, to our century, to our species standing on a fragile planet, staring into infinity, knowing at last that we are finite. Our resources are limited. Our climate is fragile. Our time is precious. The illusion of human infinity is gone. The question is, what will we scatter? The cosmos teaches us that before a star explodes, its core falters. It burns through fuel faster and faster. Balance breaks, collapse looms. To the outside, it still shines. But inside, it races toward transformation. Humanity today is not so different. On the surface, our cities glow brighter than ever. Technology connects us, science advances, wealth accumulates, but beneath the shine, pressures build. The countdown quickens. Climate change warms our planet, melts ice caps, fuels storms, shifts oceans. It is the slow but steady signal that our balance is breaking. Like a star exhausting its hydrogen, we are burning through resources, tipping ecosystems, destabilizing the fragile equilibrium that sustains us. Nuclear weapons still haunt our world. Remnants of a rivalry that once nearly ended civilization. Thousands of warheads remain, enough to scorch Earth many times over. We carry in our arsenals the power to collapse ourselves, to scatter not enrichment, but ashes. Inequality divides nations, hoards resources, denies billions the chance to thrive. Civilizations do not collapse only from outside threats. They collapse from within. When trust erodes, when cooperation dissolves, when people lose faith in shared purpose, these are our iron cores. These are the forces that cannot sustain Infinite growth, infinite denial, infinite consumption. To the outside, we shine. Inside, the countdown quickens. But here lies the difference between us and the stars. A star cannot choose its fate. Its collapse is inevitable. But we can. We are the only species we know that can see its own fragility and act on it. The only species that can measure the countdown and change its trajectory. This is our supernova moment. The question is not whether pressures build, but what we will scatter when collapse comes. Ashes or enrichment. Regret or legacy. Silence or meaning. So here we stand, a species of stardust, aware enough to ask questions of infinity, fragile enough to know we may never touch it, and powerful enough to decide what we scatter into the future. Infinity may exist, the universe may stretch without end, or repeat forever, or bud off countless worlds in an endless multiverse. But for us here now, infinity is not the point. Finitude is, our world is finite. Our time is finite. Our choices are finite. And that is what makes them matter. The space race showed us this truth. Out of rivalry came vision. Out of fear came perspective. Out of crisis came cooperation. We looked up, chasing infinity, and what we discovered was Earth fragile, finite, beautiful alone. That was our pale blue dot moment, a reminder that meaning is not found in forever, but in caring for the now. When a star dies, it cannot choose what it leaves behind, but we can. We can scatter wisdom, knowledge, compassion, responsibility. We can enrich the future instead of depleting it. We can build a civilization that lasts, not because it is infinite, but because it invests in the finite in each life, in each generation, in each fragile planet. So, could infinity actually have an end? Perhaps. Physics suggests yes, but the deeper truth is this. What matters most was never infinity. It was what we do inside the finite. It was what we scatter when our moment comes. Because the universe has already given us everything: the stars that made our atoms, the galaxies that shaped our home, the cosmos that seeded our very existence. It has already scattered its enrichment. Now, the responsibility is ours. If stars can turn collapse into creation, then surely we can turn crisis into renewal. If galaxies can recycle death into life, then surely we can transform fragility into resilience. If the universe itself can find meaning in impermanence, then surely we can too. And one day, if another civilization far across the cosmos looks back at us, may they see not only that we existed, but that we scattered something worthy. That, in our finite time, we lived with infinite responsibility. That we embraced the truth the universe whispered all along. Infinity may end, but meaning does not. We have spent this hour tracing the contours of the boundless and finding again and again that what saves us is the boundary. In the vacuum of deep space, every breath is measured, every watt accounted for, every checklist sacred. That's not pessimism. That's how astronauts come home. The cosmos, indifferent as it is, has been our strictest teacher. Plan precisely, improvise wisely, conserve ruthlessly, cooperate absolutely. In space, there are no sidelines. Everyone is on the crew, so let's talk plainly. The fifth dimension, I promised, isn't a hidden corridor of physics. It's the dimension we create when awareness turns into responsibility and responsibility matures into action. It's the field you generate when you decide that facts will guide you, that empathy will anchor you, and that the future has a vote in what you do today. Think of it as a moral space-time curved not by mass, but by meaning. The space race was our first rehearsal. We strapped ourselves to controlled explosions and learned that bravery without discipline is a firework, but bravery with discipline is a mission. We argued, we feared, we nearly destroyed ourselves, and then, in a rare moment of clarity, we looked back and saw one world. If you want to honor that era, don't romanticize the rockets. Emulate the rigor. Build coalitions the way engineers build spacecraft. Redundancy for failure, margins for uncertainty, and respect for the unforgiving nature of reality. From here forward, treat Earth as mission control treats a spacecraft. Measure what matters, Close the feedback loops. If an experiment fails, write it down, fix the procedure, try again. Let data be your North Star. Humility your reaction control thrusters. Save your propellant energy, water, soil, as if your life depends on it. It does. And upgrade your definition of we. In cosmic terms, the distance between us and them rounds to zero. National borders don't show up on planetary portraits. Neither do our excuses. If you need a tribe, choose the one that fits inside a spacesuit or a biosphere. Same difference. The oath of that tribe is simple. Facts over pride, children over comfort, tomorrow over applause. But I'm just one person, you might say. So is every mission specialist who ever fixed a failing spacecraft with duct tape and a deadline. The universe doesn't ask for spectacle, it asks for vectors. Point yourself. Pick one problem and move it by 1 Newton. Teach with more patience than you received. Vote with the future in mind. Learn a skill that heals something real. Waste less. Share more. Repeat. This is how trajectories change, not with a bang, but with a billion tiny burn. Let's retire the fantasy that meaning requires eternity. Meaning requires engagement. The stars don't need your belief, they need your calibration. Nature doesn't negotiate, but it does respond to competence. We are not condemned by our finitude, we are focused by it. Deadlines clarify, horizons motivate. The clock on the wall of the universe isn't there to scare you, it's there to wake you. And when you feel small under the night sky, good. Small is accurate, but never confuse small with powerless. Your atoms were forged in stellar furnaces that never met you and yet prepared you. The cosmos has already invested in you the rarest elements in existence and the strangest property we know, consciousness. What you do with that is your return on cosmic capital. So here is my modest proposal for a species that once flung tin cans at the moon and called it courage. Let's become the civilization our photographs already suggest we could be. The one that treats knowledge as oxygen, not as ornament. The one that designs cities like ecosystems and economies like life support systems. The one that trains its curiosity on the unknown and its compassion on the unseen. The one that can launch to Mars without abandoning Earth. If we do that, if we accept that finitude is not a prison but a parameter, then our brief spark becomes a beacon. Our limits won't shrink us, they will shape us. We will not outrun entropy, but we can outwit complacency. We may never hold infinity, but we can hand off a wiser world. And one distant day, if someone or something studies our faint radio whispers, leaking into the dark, let it hear more than static. Let it hear a species that learned in time that the universe is not obligated to make us comfortable, only comprehensible. That truth is not a weapon, but a tool. That progress is not a ladder to the heavens, but a bridge to each other. This is the fifth dimension revealed. Awareness, responsibility, and the cosmic truth that meaning is manufactured locally and tested universally. It is not mystical, it is measurable. You can start it tonight with the next choice you make. Infinity may end, our mission does not. Now, check your instruments, mind your margins, choose your vector. And step outside just for a moment to look up, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it with purpose.